Welcome to Becoming is Messy, where we dive deep into the journey of survival, transformation, and everything in between. I'm your host, Meghann Dawson, here to share the honest, unfiltered stories behind my own process of becoming. Life isn't a pretty and perfect straight line, and neither is becoming the person we're meant to be. Here, we embrace the ups, the downs, and all the beautiful, chaotic, messy moments that shape who we are. Whether you're in the thick of change or reflecting on past transformations, this space is for real conversations about what it means to grow, stumble, and rise again. So get comfy, settle in, and let's get messy. Welcome back, Messies. Today's episode pulls us into a realm that I personally love, exploring the space where energy, alignment, and possibility intersect. We're talking about the kind of magic that isn't about coincidence or luck, but about the frequencies we choose, the stories we tell, and the way we show up for our own becoming. Our discussion today aligns with the Imperfect Level Up competency, second E, embrace the magic of the universe. This is where we stop pretending we have to grind our way to growth and instead lean into the unseen forces that are already supporting us. It's the step where curiosity becomes a portal and alignment becomes its own kind of power. And there's no better guide for this than today's guest. Christy Whitman is a two-time New York Times bestselling author, a transformational leader of 25 years, and an expert on universal laws, energy work, and manifesting through deliberate, aligned action. Through her books, coaching, meditations, channeled teachings, and courses, she's helped thousands shift their inner world so their outer world can finally catch up. Christy, welcome to Becoming is Messy.
Thank you so much, Meghann. We were having so much fun chatting beforehand about all sorts of things. So I feel like I already know you. And
Same.
hi, everyone. Nice to meet y'all.
Right? I know. I feel like I almost forgot to hit record because I just could have kept chatting over this next hour with you.
We're about to go grab tea.
I know, that's right. Well, to our listeners, I did mention to Christy that she's calling in today from Arizona, which I'll be visiting in a couple months. So that tea may be in our future.
Sure.
Well, for our discussion today, help us set the stage and talk just a little bit about this current season that you're in.
When you say current season, what do you mean?
Kind of up to you, wherever that sits with you. That could be the last week. That could be today. Just give us a little bit of a kind of a pulse check of where you're at in your life right now.
Well, I just launched my 7th book, The Flow Factor. So, that's
Congratulations.
exciting. Thank you. Actually, if I realized it the other day, it's actually my 8th.
Wow.
And I went, oh, it's my 8th. But one of them's an ebook. So,
Yes.
7 real books that you can touch and feel.
Yes.
But yeah, so it's been a journey. And, it was a lot of promoting the book and a lot of talking about it. And I'm still talking about it. I'm living it because I'm just so grateful that I have this information because it helps me in my own life. I mean, I am working with this information daily because really all of us have a choice in every single moment. Am I going to see this as an opportunity? Am I going to see this as, the universe wants to be supporting me and is supporting me and has my back? Or am I going to look at, I'm waiting for, some kind of bigger being to come and punish me or get me or, the other shoe's going to drop. I actually have people, and it's crazy to actually think about this, but clients, and I'm sure you do too, that are like, I'm afraid to be happy.
Yes. Oh,
I'm afraid to
yes.
let myself.
So true.
I'm afraid to let myself feel
Yes,
good.
I've been there.
Totally. And the reason is, and it is so common, the reason is because we were feeling good when we got the bad news
Yes.
or when we hurt ourselves or when we got our feelings hurt or, when we got betrayed or there's so many places where in our lives, in our past experiences, if you've lived a few decades, right, you've had a couple bumps and bruises, some big traumas and others, just they're traumas that imprint us and can program us in a limiting way, right? And so when you can understand that whatever happened during that time, you can actually work with the energy of that part of you that is holding on to a limiting belief or stuck energy or whatever it is. and help that part release the energy so that you're clear and feeling the flow now.
Wow, that's incredible. Yeah, I resonated so strongly with that. First of all, just this week, I finished my first book. So I
Oh,
thank
congrats.
you.
Oh, such a
It
thrill.
feels
Oh,
so
such
good.
a
It just,
accomplishment.
I'm just like energetically just so electric this week, feeling so
That's
proud.
awesome.
And
Wait till you hold it in your
I
hand.
know.
There's no other
I
feeling. It's
know.
so
I held
amazing.
just the printed, the manuscript because I gave it to my husband and I'm giving it to my best friend to read first before I kind of do beta readers and all that stuff. And just holding like the Word document, like gave me
Yeah,
goosebumps,
it's special.
But it is my memoir and I do have a chronic trauma background. And so reliving that experience over the last 3 years, I very much relate to that feeling of just release, having now gone back through so many of those stages and then seeing the woman that I was along the becoming journey, and then I relate very
That's the
much.
fun part.
It's so fun, incredible to see, what you have been able to walk out of, but
Eh,
the comment that you made about, being scared to kind of feel good, it's like that whole like other shoe dropping. Like there were also times where I didn't like feeling good because it felt boring to me, coming back like from a
Yes.
trauma background. I was used to chaos. And so it's taken me a long time and some of the practices we're going to talk about today to be able to get
Megan.
comfortable. So, yeah.
No, I remember a moment when it was right around the time I wrote The Art of Having It
Yeah.
All. It's one of my books that hit the New York Times.
Yes.
And there was a feeling of, I have everything. I
Yes.
know, boo
I
hoo,
know. No,
poor
I
you,
know. Yeah.
right? But it was like, I
Yeah. Yep.
have everything and I'm
Yeah.
bored
That's where I was. I hear you. I relate to that.
because there was nothing to clean up,
Yeah.
fix, amend for, prove. It was nothing to put energy towards defending against, fixing it up. It was all this energy going towards creating a positive life. And the energy of chaos and drama and struggle, it carries a
Yeah.
lot. It's a lot of energy and it's very, well, negative for sure, but it's very heavy.
Yes.
It's a very heavy energy to always be on, okay, if I do this, am I going to get punished? Am I in drama? Can I help them when they don't want to be helped? And how come this never helped? Like playing the victim, all of that, that's heavy. And so when you start to put it down, the second aspect or way of being is neutrality.
Yes.
And if you're not used to neutrality,
So
it's like
true. Yeah. It's
crickets,
so
you're like,
true.
what? Yeah,
Yes.
had that experience too, and it's
Yes.
but you get used
You
to it. The
do.
peace actually starts
It
to
does.
I'm
Yeah.
like, "I want more
Oh, now
quiet
I
now."
love it. That's what I wanted to say. It's like, I feel like for those listening that right now are maybe in that period of either boredom or chaos, the things that we're going to talk about today and some of the other things we've talked about in other episodes, it's possible to get to a place where you welcome peace. Like the words I use now, I feel so light. I feel the lightest I've ever felt. I love peace. I love stillness, and it's taken me a while to get here, but there is a possible path to that. So, yeah.
Yes.
So walk us
Thank God for
backwards.
that.
So walk us back to maybe, every becoming story has some version of a messy path. So
Oh, I've got
what were
lots.
some of the twists and turns that led you to that peace? Think backwards when maybe you had some chaos or messiness. What were some of those twists for you?
Well, I mean, high school, college, watched my sister who was 11 years older than me. She was a drug addict, would do cocaine and just be in that whole world. And that in and of itself was painful and traumatic and all that. And then 5 years later, she ended up committing suicide. And that was like, I mean, and that felt like the most traumatic thing I could ever go through. And I've gone through other traumatic things, but having the closest person to me at
Oh,
that time, right? It wasn't just like someone I knew,
right.
it was someone that was the closest person to me and can't help them. But I'm so grateful because it was around that time that I started really paying attention to my intuition because I heard a download of write her a card, write her a letter,
Mhm.
express how you feel. I found this beautiful angel card And I was able to just pour my heart, my gratitude, my appreciation for her as my sister, like almost like if I never got to speak to her again, what words would I speak? I
Mm.
wrote that to her in this card and I sent it to her. She got it. We talked about it. And that was the last time I spoke to
Wow.
her. And the crazy part about it was that tragedy led to such an opening spiritually for me because there were so many signs that she was still there, and I could get well, that could be do a whole
Oh,
podcast
yeah.
interview just on that alone. Because my second book that I wrote was Why Did She Choose
Mhm.
Suicide? And I kept getting signs after signs after signs that she was right there. I could feel her with me. And so that really opened up like a really different portal for me, on the physical plane because it was like I felt like I still had my sister, but just in a very different form. As a matter of fact, one night I remember telling my boyfriend, who became my husband and who's now my former husband at the
Yep.
time, now it was a whole
Yeah.
nother one, a
Yeah.
divorce, right? I remember telling him, I just miss my sister talks
Yeah.
because we used to get on the phone and talk for forever, right? And it wasn't at the time of cell phones either. So we would be like,
Yes. Tethered to the
on
wall.
the
Yeah.
tethered to the wall, talking to each other. But I had a dream that night that I was talking to her. And when I woke up, I felt so fulfilled because I received what I was looking for.
Wow.
And I was like, I'm not missing anything. But that experience and many others, like going through a divorce, going through believable amount of money debt and not even knowing how to breathe and feeling so overwhelmed and up at night, not knowing how the hell, how you going to pay everything and everyone going through that to I'd say one of the biggest ones, I'm not even done yet.
Yes.
One of the biggest ones is my 2-month-old baby was rushed to the hospital and had to have open heart surgery. And he was in the hospital for a month, thank God, because that was a minimal time. Some people, they had their babies in there for years, months. And I'm so grateful I had the teaching that I teach and what I coach and all of what I know to go through all those because now he is a 15-year-old, like soccer star, straight A student. He's a really, really cool kid. He happens to be one of my favorite people on the planet, second to my husband, if not close and
Yeah.
as a race. Next to my other son too. I have to say that too. But
Yeah.
he's just an incredible human
Mhm.
being. And to think that, when he's around people, he's just such a light. And I'm so grateful that we got to go through that and have him shine his light and be in his genius
Oh,
and,
I love that.
get to watch
That's
him.
like just the threads of your story because they reinforce something I believe deeply in the idea that so much of our purpose is found in our wounds. And yeah, and I've watched friends and loved ones that go through similar traumatic experiences that never are open to let it teach them and instead let it hold them back and cause
Yeah.
further harm. And so I just wish openness for everybody because the hardship, as you've articulated, they can pile up and they can break us if we don't try to let them work through us.
They can break
Yeah.
us,
Yeah.
and there's those moments of just like, I just so tired. I can't handle anymore. I can't take anymore.
Yeah.
It's like I've done
I
everything. I've tried
know.
everything where you just feel like that's like that moment of where you can actually start partnering with the divine in a much bigger way because that's a part of surrender.
Right.
It's not an abdication or a giving up, but it's like this which I don't understand, I give over to my soul,
Yes. Oh, I love that.
you
That's a good
know,
quote. That's good.
because our soul is always with us. This energy field of pure positive energy is
Yeah.
always with us. And when we can in tune with it, we can remember that. When we can invite and ask and feel and blend with that part of us, that's what actually, in those make it or break it moments, when we can, in the now, bring our soul and compassion to those times, we become more empowered. Even if we're going through a make it or break it time right
Oh,
now,
definitely.
it's through that energy of compassion,
Yes.
calling in your soul.
Yeah.
And there's a process that I love, and it's amazing to me how many people are resistant to doing it
Mhm.
and how many people are willing to do it, and those that are willing to do it instantly see a shift, and it is the easiest thing. It's free, you don't have to go anywhere. Your arms are always with you.
Yes.
It's not like, "Oh, bread. I left my
Yeah.
arms at the grocery store. It's
Yeah.
like I left them home, right? Your
Right.
arms are with you. So wrap
Yeah.
them
The
around
best
yourself
feeling, isn't it?
and give
Oh,
yourself a hug.
just
I mean, there's so
instantly.
much
Yes. That
that goes on.
oh, it just feels like,
You're
yeah, no matter what you're
Yeah.
feeling, just a hug is just, it's the best.
Yeah,
Good
I
one.
mean, hug yourself.
Yeah.
90 seconds is, you can rub your
Huh.
arm, put your hand
Yeah.
over your heart.
Yeah.
Do something somatic because that somatic touch,
Agreed.
that releases the limbic system, which is the guard. It's like a guard dog at your brain that's always looking for, what do you need to fight against, flight, what do you fight, flight, freeze, that whole survival consciousness. The limbic system gets to just relax. Imagine the dog's on its belly,
Yes.
getting a belly rub,
Right.
right?
Yes.
And the whole nervous
Yeah.
system then, our thoughts get quieter, not as speedy and
Yeah.
racy. And, it's like everything can calm down. Now, did the situation change right away?
No, of
No.
course not.
But
Yeah.
but you did,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
because your state is now different, you now can have access to more expanded thoughts,
Mhm.
such as solutions or a
Yep.
different perspective, or, being able to switch from life is hard to life is magic.
Yes,
And
that's
and
so
there's so many
true.
magical
Yeah.
moments that if I allow myself to be with it and feel it.
Yes, and it also, you really do get to a place where you can identify that all of life is magic. Even the moments that break us, even the moments, there is something universal and energetic and reasoning, and it's not to say that anybody deserves the hardships that happen to them. However, there is kind of a grander plan that I don't fully understand, but you can turn magic out of everything. And so, yeah, it's a very cool and curious then how you translated those kind of messy moments that you started learning these practices. How did that eventually translate into writing your first book and helping other people with some of these practices?
Well, I mean, it's been 25 years, right? So there's a
Yeah,
lot of ins and
of
outs and
course.
parts and pieces. Of course, like, I had coaches. I lived the life I live now because of the coaches that I hired along the way, because of the healers that helped me get unstuck from something, from the amazing authors and teachers and channelers that are out there that, bring their wisdom and techniques and processes. We're living in a time right now where, if you think about it, our mothers, our grandmothers, our aunts, they didn't have groups where you can come together like retreats
Yeah,
and,
so true.
meet with other people that speak the
Yeah,
same language and are talking about energy. And, they didn't have, these kind of conscious groups talking about how your thoughts create your reality. They just didn't
it's
have them.
true.
And if they did, they didn't know about them. And so we're at a time where it's like we have so many different people that are light workers out in the world, such as yourself, Megan, and myself,
Yep.
and many, many, many others, right? Who are doing this work because it's a calling, and naturally you're a transformational, guide, coach, leader, however you want to say
Yeah,
it. And that for me is just such a
it
blessing
is.
because this journey of life, when you can have someone that's like, hey, I got
Yeah,
you, let me hold your vision for you, or let me help see you
yeah.
differently than you see yourself or can see
It's so
yourself.
true. Yes.
Right. It's
You're
such a,
reminding me so much. It's like when we go through this, it's contagious. How
yeah.
lucky are we to live now in a time where we can jump on a podcast and connect with like-minded people that believe in this work, and we can kind of expand each other's work and grow ourselves. And I just feel so fortunate for the period we live in because of that.
Yeah. Even in my lifetime
Yeah.
in the 90s
Yeah.
when I was, building my coaching business, I didn't have
Right.
that.
Oh, of course.
We
Yeah.
didn't have any social media for sure, and the internet was just getting started. We had email, there were
Yeah.
websites, but most people are more like sketchy about them. Like, can you trust the internet yet? It was a very different time. And so it felt even more, it's amazing because it's so much more of a connection that you can get on a call and go, oh, cool, you're a coach too, or you're a healer too. And
Yeah.
this is my process, and this is what I teach. And
Yep.
this is how clients get benefit and go from here to there. And to be able to, do it kind of arm in arm,
Yeah.
but you do it and I do it and others do it too.
Yeah.
It's just remarkable
Yeah.
that this is something that, you know.
Yeah.
I
Cool.
remember you asked me a question, and the thing that happened was 25-ish years ago. I was meditating like I do every night. It had been like 5 years of really meditating and working with energy and all that. First part is a whole nother story. But I was meditating and I saw the cover of my first book and it said Perfect Pictures by Christy
Mhm.
Whitman. And I thought, well, that's interesting. And then the pages started
Yeah.
flowing. And so I went to sleep, and at 1:05 in the morning, I was woken up as if someone was
Mhm.
talking, and it was weird because I was
Yeah.
disoriented thinking like, "Is my husband talking in the middle of the night? Is he
Yep.
talking in his sleep?" And he was dead asleep, and I'm hearing this voice just tell me this information, and I had to get up. At first, I tried to like, "Shut it up, to snooze it, whatever we could do to stop it." It wasn't going
Yeah, I
away,
wanna
but it was
yeah,
persistent,
yep.
and I'm like, "Not a convenient time,"
No.
but I got up, I went into my office, started writing what I was hearing, and then all of a sudden my hand just started moving
What
so
yeah.
quickly. One hand was turning the pages while the next was just and the flow of that was 7 nights in a
Mhm.
row with the information that downloaded. I literally was like, I think I'm writing a book. I reached out to a author who had just been in the area and I bought a workbook from her and her email was on there. So I emailed her and I said, I think I'm writing a book. How do you get a book
Yeah, it's good.
published,
They
right? Yeah, and her advice was, again, not a internet like we have it now, was go online and find a literary agent.
mhm.
So I happened to look up literary agent, and this guy popped up, and he was both a literary agent and publisher. So he said, "Just send me what you have." And so I typed up all my notes and everything, and he said, "Oh, yeah, I'll publish your book for you." Oh, okay. All right.
Incredible.
So got the book published. My friends and family bought the book, read the book, thought I was crazy, definitely not the target
No.
audience for this book. And so because of that, I actually had, here's again, I had a psychic, I had a psychic reading with someone. They said, you need to start speaking on the contents of your book. So I reached out to a bookstore that was like a new age bookstore in Sacramento, California. It was 2.5 hours away from where I was living in Redding, and sent the guy my book. He loved it. And he goes, yeah, come do a workshop. So it was at this particular workshop that people were asking me, so are you a
Mm.
coach?
Yep.
And
Wow.
again, I had never heard of life coaching.
Right. Yeah.
I was doing it,
Yeah,
and
actually
that's how far back we go.
yeah, that's so cool, isn't
So, I
it?
mean, my paradigm was like, what do you mean, like a cheerleading
Yeah.
coach or like a football coach? I mean,
Yeah.
just, people do that. But at that time, there wasn't a lot of people that were doing it and having a successful, sustainable business. They were speakers or they were authors, but they weren't a coach or they were a consultant. And so it's great to see the whole entire coaching industry in the past 25 years develop to where it
Yeah,
is and where
wow.
it's
It's
going.
neat that you've been a part of that transformation happen. The other
It's
thing that
fun.
stood out to me, so I'm a mom to 3 teenagers, and we have our oldest who is a freshman in college. We have a senior,
Boys,
a
girls,
boy who is in his first year in Boston in college, and our senior will our girl will find out next week where she got accepted to. So we're fingers crossed for that. And then our junior is also a girl, and she has no clue yet what she wants to do. But one of the things in their season of life that I love right now, when I was their age, I really thought I had to solve my career forever. Everything I
yeah.
did, every like, choice I made back then was forever. Even my first few jobs, it felt like I was making a forever decision. And the older we get, we realize that we just have to decide for right now. And then the next step will show itself, just like you just explained. And for me, even right now, for me with coaching and speaking, I just launched my business in January, and thank
Congratulations.
you. And I envisioned starting with coaching, but speaking has actually come first. So I haven't done much coaching, even though I have my certification and I've done, the practice hours with clients through that. Speaking for me was really part two of my endeavor, but it's just kind of staying open and not knowing exactly, but at least having an openness to where it's all going to unfold and take us. And for my kids, I love that. To me, that seems less daunting. Just decide for right now,
Absolutely.
right?
Right. I'm like, I'm a kid. I want to go to a bar and dance.
Yeah,
Why do I have to choose what I want to be with for the rest of my
right?
life?
Yeah.
I remember I got advice from it's interesting. My parents had a friend that was very wealthy and he got really wealthy He had his first office furniture business, and then he grew it into just a huge chain and sold it and,
Yeah.
that sort of thing. So he got really, really he had a lot of direction focus, but he also had some good juju on his side,
Yeah.
right? So he was retired from a very young age, and I remember him saying to me in high school, "When you get a job, go get a job, like, at a bank, and so then you choose that, and then you could grow, as you go into college and da, 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 da," and I'm like, "I don't wanna work at a bank." I was working in a clothing store, but he did say to me I was working at the Gap, and he's like, "If you're not gonna be doing that for the rest of your life," and I thought, "I wanna be a buyer at Bloomingdale's, or I'll do
That's
that."
right.
But I remember when I was in college and I was a cocktail waitress, and he's like, "Where's this gonna lead to?" He's like, "You gotta get in a bank. You gotta get, something that you're." And it's funny because what it led to was after I graduated college, I was a liquor and wines rep,
Right.
and then I became a wine rep, and then a Pepsi Cola, and then went
Yeah.
into pharmaceutical sales,
That's
and none
true.
of it mattered anyway because now I'm my own boss for 19 years, and I am a coach and an author and a transformational helper,
Yeah.
and
You followed what was lighting you up at the time, and that just by doing that,
right.
it just adds up. It just works. So,
It
yeah,
does.
yeah,
Yeah.
instead of a path that you're just drained by just because there's a path that you can clearly see, you know? Yeah,
Well, it's interesting you're saying that because that's part of my one of those changing moments
yeah,
is that I remember living once again, I was in Reading, I had my dream home, I was married, I was a pharmaceutical sales rep making great money, I had money in the bank, the whole thing. And there was this moment of like I don't want to do this job anymore because I'm not passionate
yeah,
about
yeah.
it and it doesn't feel like I'm on purpose. Because it was like selling drugs, I would rather put peppermint oil on my head than take a Tylenol. That's who I am. I'd rather go to acupuncture than have to take that. And so that's just me. But I felt drained. And so knowing what I know, that everything is energy and that all energy carries a vibration, and that if I am the one sending out that vibration, I'm going to attract like things to myself. That's law of attraction, right? What you
Yeah.
send out comes back. So for me, it was like, okay, if I'm coming from a lacking place of not having passion or purpose, then I have to cultivate being fulfilled, or at least imagining that I'm fulfilled with passion and purpose. And so I started to do that every day. And within, I don't even know, I don't remember if it was like 3 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever, but it was around that time, very shortly after that, I was cultivating passion and purpose as part of my life. My first book came through me, and then I started speaking, and then I just kept leaning in,
Yeah.
right? Kept leaning in, kept
I
leaning
love
in.
that. I love that. So thinking of the folks that you've coached or even our listeners right now who maybe haven't really bought into some of the things we're talking about yet, maybe they haven't experienced, kind of vibrational shifts and law of attraction, when they're in their stuck season, feeling stagnant, feeling heavy, where do you start suggesting that people start?
Watching their words,
Mhm.
because that's the first place we have to start, because our words are literally the spark of our consciousness, of what we create, of everything. And it even says it in the beginning, there was the word, and the word was with God, and the word was good, right? So it's like that's creative. It tells you right there that that's a creative endeavor. Whenever you're wanting to create anything, you speak it into reality, whether you're speaking words that are positive and then you create a positive outcome, or you speak something that feels bad
Mhm.
and can't or should, or, I'll try, or any of those kind of words that are non-committal, that are more from a victim nature, those also they create more of being in that vibration of being a victim, of not having what you want, not feeling the way you want to feel. And so just because this is a whole big thing, and I've been asked this for a long
Of
time since I've been
course.
doing interviews and things like that, I created watchyourwords.com.
Mm,
And so as a free gift, all of your listeners can go there. It's
great.
watchyourwords.com. It's a complimentary 30-day program. There's basically 30 videos in there.
Some
Each each video is 2 to 3 minutes in length and tells you 3 things: what not to say, why. I'm always like, "Well, why?
Yeah,
Why should I s why?" Right? Because I wanna know the why, like, I need the buy-in. So,
yeah.
each one of these are interactive. I have you figure out why. In some of these videos, I'm telling you to say a certain thing and have you watch your vibration and how you feel, and then to say another phrase or word differently, and then check in with yourself and how you feel. Because these words and phrases will spark if you feel expanded, and then what also becomes a thought, which then also becomes an image or a picture or belief, which
Yeah.
also becomes an emotion, which also becomes then the actions that we take,
Yep.
and then the results that we
Love
get.
that. Oh, I'm so excited. Thank you for sharing that. We'll definitely put that in the notes, and I can't wait to go check that out.
They're
It's
good.
good. Another, kind of thinking, I guess, carrying positivity forward. A lot of women that I talk to, myself included, we are recovering people pleasers. And I think sometimes we ground that in thinking we're being positive, by smiling and being people pleasers. Just wanted your perspective on what that can do to somebody's frequency and how you can start reclaiming your alignment to not do that.
Well, it's interesting, and I'm glad you asked that because in the flow factor, I
Yeah.
talk about our survival brain, right? And I talk about how that fight, flight, freeze, fawn. Fawn is that people pleasing. I got to fawn all over everybody, make sure everybody else is okay, and make sure everybody else is good. And then if there's any left over, I'll give it to myself. But the reason I do it is because I want to make sure everybody's okay in order for me to be
Mhm.
okay because I'm not okay. And so it's coming from a place of needing to resist, fight back, push back, run
Yeah.
for, just go do nothing. It's a primitive part of us. And we're also, from a psychological level, we're also ingrained into drama and chaos and into the drama triangle. So when we are, fawning all over someone, when we're being a people pleaser, we're in that rescuer role because we don't feel good enough about ourselves. But when we help someone,
So true.
and it's kinda like the good guy role, like,
Yeah.
you're being so good. "Oh, you're
Yes.
so good, you're
Yep.
so helpful," right? But what ends up happening, and I don't know if you've ever experienced this, like, do
Yeah.
for someone, and they're not appreciating it, and you're like, "I was just trying to help,"
Yeah.
you know? It's like then we become that victim.
Mhm.
Like, I've done everything, and they've done nothing, and they're up they but right? It's like
Yeah.
that we become a victim in that, and then there's also the other role of persecutor. So I talk about all of
Yeah, it's
this
good.
inside of the flow factor because of the fact that all of that's coming from that first perspective of not being enough.
Mhm.
I'm not enough, and I'm afraid of not being enough. I'm
Yeah.
afraid of someone abandoning me. I'm afraid of not getting my needs. It's a very primitive part.
Yep,
It's a
very
very,
true.
you know, third dimensional got survive you're in survival mode in this space, right? And when you start talking different, when you start doing some of the processes like opening up the back of the head and neck and working with your energy, you let all of this stuck energy
Mhm.
start to release out because what happens is when you get an emotion, when you get bushwhacked, when you have something like a trauma or something, a lot of times we, instead of just feeling it whoosh all over us and let ourselves feel it and be, informed by it, many times without even us being aware of it, we're like a turtle.
Mhm.
Like we go,
Yeah, yeah.
we go
Yep.
in. And when we do that, we're collapsing around that energy, which then
Mm.
creates an imprint
Mhm.
because
Yes.
there's no flow
Yep,
there.
that makes sense.
Right? So where there's an imprint,
Mm.
there is no flow. So if you want to create flow where there's been an imprint, you bring in the flow.
I love
That's
that.
where you start to master the energy, right? It's where you
Yes.
work with the energy. And so when you're in that space where you've wanted to please everybody, want everybody to be okay so that you can then be okay, because the thought also is if they're not okay, I can't be okay,
Right. Yeah,
right?
it's
And then the other flip side of that is if they don't change, then I would be okay,
right. Yes. Yep. And
right?
if I get them okay, well, then they're gonna love me. If I get them okay, then they're gonna respect me, and then that doesn't come like you think it does. And so you almost get the opposite from just giving without looking at your own needs.
Sometimes it's too much.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's overdoing,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
But the biggest thing is that we have a need. It's an energetic need.
Yeah.
It's an emotional need, a physical, social. We have so many different needs. And I don't mean this from I'm so
No,
needy,
no.
but like, the need to feel
Yeah.
seen,
Yeah.
heard, This morning, my husband was like working on the computer and he's usually like right there with me. And we were talking about tomorrow and the plans. And he's like, uh-huh, uh-huh, uh-huh. And I'm like, you're not even listening. I caught you. Like you're just doing the yeah, yeah, yeah saying, right? And there was like a moment when I felt like a ping. It wasn't a major big deal, but it was like, oh, he wasn't paying attention to me, right? So I could give myself that compassion and give myself the need to be seen,
Mhm.
heard, understood, whatever that is. But giving yourself the energy first, that fulfillment of passion, purpose, freedom, whatever that may be, when you give that to yourself and cultivate that within yourself, you don't need to strategize other people or things to do it, right?
Right.
Because in our minds, we're like, all right, in order for me to be at peace, I got to not talk to her. He needs to do this differently. They need to grow up. They need to, all these people, all these situations, right? The United States needs to do this. The government needs to do that, right? It's like there's a strategy. Everybody, the neighbor needs to do this. There's always a strategy. If they would all just do this, then I will be.
Yes, that is so
And
true. Yeah.
instead of just going, okay, what's the need here? What do I want?
Yeah.
I want peace. I want quiet. I want respect. I want love. I want support. And feel what that feels like to have your soul as your instant, constant partner, providing you with that feeling immediately.
Yes.
Like I could feel the freedom now. I could feel the success now. I could feel the love now.
Yes. So I
Yeah.
feel like what you're describing, it just makes experience feel so much easier. It's like because all you're doing is focusing on giving yourself that feeling. And
Yeah.
then because the other people aren't going to shift that feeling, you can then approach them from a place of equality and a place of
Yes.
more discernment to whether they are additive to your being, or are they starting to poke and you feel that they could potentially start being that energy drain? You're just more of a position of your own self power to make those choices.
Well, self awareness is the first step in
Yeah,
emotional
so
intelligence.
true.
And if you have no awareness, like my mom, she's 89, all her life, she has never had, it's not because she's 89, she has had no self awareness.
Yep.
Like she's the kind of person I remember like in the 70s and 80s when we would be on vacation and someone would be with an actual camera back in the days, right? Someone would be taking a picture and she wouldn't even notice what was going on. She'd walk right in front of the
Yes.
camera. And my dad and I would joke, I mean, there are hundreds of pictures all around the world of people that have my mom's profile
Yes.
as they were taking a picture walking, like, who's that lady,
Right.
right? Just, I mean, even back then, she'll burp and not say excuse me or
Yeah.
even have an awareness that she burped, right? Like you have to have awareness in order to change or transform or, do something different,
It's so
right?
true.
A- And most people have no
Yeah.
awareness of the patterns, the limitations, the lack. And that's where you learn by, first of all, the words that you use,
Yeah.
the thoughts that you're
That's
thinking.
that's right. I think of the people, across my life, there's plenty that don't have that self-awareness, and I feel like the actions that you were describing, some with your mom, that used to be kind of triggering to me. It just like as I was
Yes.
on my upward journey and gaining self-awareness, I just used to almost feel kind of embarrassed for people or just where I feel like now I'm just at a place where I don't have judgment because somebody doesn't have self-awareness. It's more of just an acknowledgement and a recognition that not everybody is going to, and, I've made peace with that, and it's made my life
Well,
easier. I'm not gonna change
well,
everybody.
yeah, because you don't need to change them and they probably don't want to
Right,
anyway, so you're off
exactly.
the
So
hook, right? It's like,
exactly.
wait, my job is done.
Yeah.
Here, I just want to show you this. And for those,
You
this is a graph that I have in excuse me, the flow
Yeah, yeah,
factor, the
yeah.
desire factor is my last book. And it's just to describe it to everybody, it's like the minute you go into a judgment of someone or something,
Yes.
including yourself, you get out of flow. So like
Ah,
we
yes.
observe
That
something,
is
right?
good.
We can observe
Yes.
something and we can either say, "Ooh, that's really good,"
Yeah.
or we can say, "Uh-oh, that's really bad," or we can stay neutral
Mm.
to it and just say, "This is interesting.
Yes.
Let me sink into this. Let me lean into this." Or, "This doesn't feel right. You go do what you want to do. That's not for me. I'm going to go over here." There's that level of discernment, allowing. Law of allowing is an actual universal law. It's like, I don't have to fix you, change you, be connected. It's codependency. It's coming from the drama triangle. You get to be you. You breathe for yourself. I'll breathe for myself. Or you think for yourself. I'll think for myself. Right. And we still get to have interesting conversations and connect and do that. But the minute we go into judgment, we're out of the flow.
Yeah, it's so
And
true.
that's important to know,
Yeah,
right?
what about so let's stick with flow for a minute and think about the times when somebody actually does something to you, maybe you don't get invited to a group dinner or somebody doesn't respond back to you or, you feel like somebody's disagreed with you and your gut is to feel angry with them. What does flow look like in those moments when we feel kind of personally attacked?
Well, flow with our emotions. So
Mhm.
if there's something that hurt your feelings, if something upset you or made you angry, those are your emotions within
Yeah.
you, right? And so the first thing to do is tend to yourself
Mhm.
and recognize that you're having these emotions that, ouch, my feeling. I had this happen. It's so funny. I've been doing this work and I've had the pleasure of having a lot of colleagues that are in this particular industry
Yeah.
and many well-known authors and, transformational leaders and we've been in groups together like, Transformational Leadership Council and things like that. And I've done different affiliate partnerships and programs with people through the years. And I happened to go on, this is years ago, I happened to go on Instagram and I see a picture of this woman who's getting married and every single one of the people that we all hang out with on these trips and, that I'm like really close friends with, one of them, it was just why am I not in that
Yeah.
picture? How come I didn't get invited to
Right.
that? It was her shower. And I can even look at this picture and go, how does she even know
Right.
her?
Yeah. So
Like,
true.
why is she invited and I wasn't invited? I was hurt. And all I had to do is I walked up to my husband, I showed him the picture, and he looked at it and he went, "Oh, baby, I'm so
Oh.
sorry. Are you
Oh,
okay?"
yeah.
It
God.
was that, and it's he is such a great guy, but what he gave me as a gift was compassion.
Yeah.
And that's where for me, it's like I'm hurt, right? So it's like I had to feel the pain of being hurt, the sadness, whatever it is, and then bring myself into compassion.
Mhm.
And from that place, because I wasn't reactive, it wasn't like I picked up the phone and went, "Hey, how come I wasn't invited?"
Yeah.
Right? I wanted to,
Right.
but I
Mhm.
did reach out to one of my best
Yeah.
friends and I said, "Hey, what was that all about?" And she told me what it is. And I go, "Did anybody think to invite me?" And she goes, "I wasn't in charge of the invitations." And, and I'm like, "But just no, tell whoever was, because I know you all. I really would have loved to have been there."
Course.
So I reached out to the bride to be and I said, "I saw the picture. I just really would have loved to have been there. I don't know if it was a mistake or if it was something on purpose, but I would have loved to have been included." And that was it, because
Yeah.
I spoke what was on my heart. I really would have and that would have pleased me. I would have really enjoyed being part of that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So I'm not here to try to shame them or make
No,
them
of
feel
course.
bad or, change anything or whatever. But it's for me to take care of myself. It's I'm having this emotion, right? It doesn't feel good. And so then how do I manage it?
Mhm. That's good.
Right?
Yes.
And then from there, once I manage my emotion, I process it, and I have, 16 processes in the Flow Factor help you do that. But once I manage my own energy around this, then I can reach out and see if there's something I need
Yep.
to.
Yep.
Maybe I need to ask a question. Maybe I need to learn more information. Maybe I need to just, not instead of like John Miguel Ruiz says in the Four Agreements, don't have assumptions, right?
Yes.
So instead of assuming something and instead of taking it personally, I'm gonna go
It's
ask.
so good. I love that. I love that you described your process. The pause is so powerful. My husband is also usually my person to go to when I'm feeling a little bit kind of fired up. We work through some of those. Well, can I just let this go? Do I feel that I have to speak it? Is there something I need to say, once I bring my emotions down? And then I love a question he always asks me. How will you feel if you either don't get a response or if you don't get the response you want? Is that going to be valuable? And it's like, do you just need to be heard or do you have to? And it's just like, just taking that little bit of an extra process. Half the time, I don't need to reach out. Half the time, by the time I do that, it's let go. But I feel like similar in the example you shared, I've gotten to the point where no, I still want to voice and just maybe try to understand a little bit, but it's just a process to help get there. And it definitely, I just always feel so proud of myself because I used to be the person that would just get hot and react and cut people out of my life and just make it so much bigger than the moment really needed. Yeah.
Exactly. Bring a skillfulness, a
Yeah.
responsibility, like, it's like it's
Exactly.
not the end of the world. You're gonna be okay. It's like
Yes.
emotions are energy.
It's so true. Love
Growth is
it. Well, we just have
powerful.
a few more questions. These next few are a segment I call Rapid Reel. Just a little kind of peek inside some of your thoughts to get a little bit of just a quicker gut check. The
Okay,
first one of
cool.
these is, we're talking about embracing the magic of the universe. And in your journey, just think back to a moment that stands out when like you were kind of like given chills because of the magic of the universe.
I remember taking my entire team, and that was like back then about 30 people on a Disney cruise with my family, and my boys were little at the time. They were about 5 and 6, and my parents on a amazing Disney cruise. And in the middle of the ocean, they had lit up fireworks. And it was just being surrounded by all the people that I love and, that support me and my kids. And we were all dressed up as pirates because it was a pirate night. It was just that moment. It was magical. It literally felt like magic seeing those fireworks off the boat.
Yes, I love that.
Yeah.
Do you have either a morning or bedtime ritual that is part of
I
your
have
practice?
both.
You've both? What are those?
Yes, I do. So, first thing when I wake up in the morning, I declare what it is that I want to feel for the day, right? It's like before any thoughts can get in, it's like, I just want to feel good. It could be as general as that, or today I want to feel success, right? And then I spend a few minutes getting into that feeling.
Mhm.
And then I get to do some lovey dovey stuff. So I get out of bed. The first thing I see is my dog, and I, love on him and brush my teeth. And then I go to my son. I brush my teeth so he doesn't smell like my morning breath. And then I get to like rub him along with the dog. So I know he's awake when he puts his hand on the dog and starts rubbing the dog and, and give him a hug and then let the dog out, do the thing, right? But it's like it all is from that place of just gratitude. Like when I'm petting the dog and I'm rubbing my son's back and,
Mhm.
my other son's too cool for school. He doesn't need that anymore. So I respect that. But then I get to go do that with my
Mhm.
husband. Sometimes I'll crawl back in bed and just cuddle with him.
Yes.
So I start my morning off with love and gratitude and affection. And that's because that's what I need. That's
Mhm.
what I love. And then at night, I go to bed with a guided meditation. I do my visualizations. I do I spend time giving gratitude for what my day, what I got to experience in my day.
Mhm.
But I always do is still for, 30 years, do a night meditation.
Beautiful. Each one of these, you sit with all different mixes of women. We were talking right before this call about a recent retreat that you hosted. And with all the women spaces you've been in, what's a theme that comes out across those conversations that leads you to kind of what one or two thoughts on what it is that women are truly looking for?
I believe they're looking for a return back to
Mhm.
themselves that they don't even know that they need, and that is the answer. Because it's like we've been so conditioned to look outside and get our needs met and strategize and all that when everything it's like Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
Everything you need's been within you the whole entire time.
Yes.
So when they get that and then how to access that they're unstoppable.
Mm. So before we get to the last question, is there anything we didn't touch on that you wanted to share? And then also, how can folks connect with you and your work? And we'll certainly share any links that you'd like with the episode.
I would definitely go to
Yep,
watchyourwords.com. If
for
this resonated with you at all, just go in there. And at the end, you get a PDF that tells you each of the words. So it really is helpful to help you shift. I would say it's the first place to start with me and my work, but you go to christywhitman.com and see other offerings that I have. I'm on social media. I do lots of different videos. I have a Hug It Out show now on my YouTube channel. So there's lots of ways. Google me. I've been online for 20 years. So Google me and you'll see all sorts of articles. And you can go down. People said, I went down a Christy Whitman rabbit hole.
Oh,
So enjoy
fun.
the rabbit hole. Enjoy. Yeah. But I would start with
I
watchyourwords.com.
love it. Well, I have loved our rabbit hole today. And so I will
Thank
go
you.
down further Christy Whitman rabbit holes in the upcoming days. So thank you so much for that. Thank you for being here with us. And to our listeners, just a reminder to embrace the magic of the universe. One simple practice is to just start looking for the winks, Just spend the next 2 days, or maybe over the holidays looking for the synchronicities. Just look for numbers or timing, unexpected support, a call from a friend you weren't expecting. Just look for the things that show up in your life that just feel like a little hug from the universe. You don't have to do anything with them, just notice them. That awareness is such a great step into alignment. Thank you for being here. Until next time, stay messy, my friends. Thank you.
Before we wrap today, I want to invite you to be part of the Becoming is Messy community. Subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss a single episode. And if there's anything that resonates with you, please leave a review. Your feedback means the world to me, and it helps other people find this community. Follow me on social media. I'd love to hear your ideas for future topics, your questions, and stories from your own messy moments. And if you're feeling inspired, check out the Becoming is Messy shop, where you can grab a mug, a t-shirt, or something else that reminds you to embrace your messy magic every single day. A huge thank you to the incredible Wolves and Sheep for providing the music for Becoming is Messy. Check them out on your favorite music streaming platform. As we close out today's episode, remember this: messy is just another word for growing. So keep showing up, keep laughing, and keep making beautifully awkward progress. Until next time, stay messy, my friends.